To unpack what this means, we are joined by Erin Carr, Assistant Professor of Law at Seattle University. Erin, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So what legal ground did the Supreme Court cite in declaring these tariffs unconstitutional or unlawful?
In today's opinion, the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, rejected the president's argument that he has broad emergency powers to unilaterally impose tariffs on any product from any nation at any rate for as long as he wants. The president had relied on an emergency statute, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, to justify issuing sweeping tariffs, even though the law doesn't actually mention the word tariff or reference any language that would indicate that Congress intended to delegate this type of expansive authority to the president. Considering both the statutory text as well as Congress's core constitutional powers to collect taxes and tariffs, the Supreme Court found that the law that the president relied on to impose more than $100 billion in tariffs could not plausibly be read as granting him such extraordinary unlimited tariff power. That power, the court concluded, rightfully belongs to Congress. And unless Congress explicitly delegates that power to the president cannot claim it as his own.
Did the ruling clarify how much discretion that a president would have to actually unilaterally, in matters of trade and national security, act?
Today's decision by the Supreme Court reaffirms that Congress, not the president, has the power of the purse, and that in order for the president to encroach on that core legislative function, Congress has to expressly give those powers to the president. The Supreme Court's ruling today attempts to recalibrate the balance of power, which the president has been systematically clawing away with virtually no resistance from Congress, by clarifying that the president cannot exclude Congress in pursuit of his tariff policy.
How could the ruling affect U.S. trade relations moving forward, do you think?
Today's Supreme Court ruling limits the president's ability to effectuate his tariff policy under IEPA, the specific law that was at issue in this case. But as Justice Kavanaugh noted in his concurrence, today's decision doesn't prevent the president from potentially implementing aspects of his tariff policy by relying on other laws where Congress has more clearly delegated authority to the president. That said, the other laws that the president has stated that he plans to use to restore his tariffs are more limited in scope and wouldn't give him the virtually unfettered tariff powers that he had asserted under IEPA, but rather might allow him to impose more modest tariffs for a limited period of time before he would then be required to seek congressional approval.
As you know, billions have been paid in tariffs, and now there's a lot of talk about refunds with no sort of clear way as to how that would all happen. What does this decision mean, do you think, for everyday Americans, and why should they care about this?
For those concerned about both the expansion of presidential power and the current affordability crisis, today's Supreme Court decision and the president's swift announcement that he would immediately impose a 10% worldwide tariff are issues to continue to watch closely. The economic, political, and constitutional issues at play involving the president's tariff policies and assertions of broad executive authority are far from resolved. Nothing in the Supreme Court's opinion today addresses what will happen next with respect to possible refunds for American businesses and customers who have paid tens of billions of dollars in costs for the president's tariffs. Similarly, it remains unclear whether the president will abide by the legal constraints that the Supreme Court has attempted to impose in today's ruling. So this decision, while significant, does inject uncertainty in a number of areas, including U.S. trade and economic policy, the Constitution's system of checks and balances, as well as the wallets of everyday Americans.
A lot to watch moving forward. Erin Carr from Seattle University, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce.